We've got jobs now that are over a year with the equipment sitting on sites, and it's still not feeding the building yet.
The construction schedule is getting longer and longer.
The availability of product is scarce, so once you get the schedule going, you got to live with it.
A lot of people think that once the gear and the transformer's on the site, that all they have to do is turn the switch on and away they go. And what's the reality of that?
Well, that's just the beginning in a lot of cases, right? I mean, at that point, there's QC checks, there's testing that has to be done, there's startup, there's coordination with the utility for a shutdown. There's a lot of different things that go on once that gear hits the site.
Sometimes it's on the site for as long as a year before it actually feeds power into the building.
Sure, and that sets off another chain of events where we got to have temporary heat on it. We got to make sure that it's going to be still covered under warranty by the time they actually do energize it. Sometimes it does take quite a while to get, whether it's a transformer, switch gear, or UPS system. It might show up at the site on a given date because the customer told us that was the date that they wanted it. But, there's circumstances at the site that might prevent the customer from just setting that on the pad and hooking it up. So they might have to do temporary power. There might have to be a commissioning service that needs to be performed, testing. So there's a lot of different things that have to get done with the equipment once it gets on site.
And it could be a year.
It could be.
Could be. A lot of times we ship the stuff to the site, and as Ryan mentioned, have to have the contractor run temporary power because we have to have heaters in there. You got to have the controls that have to be functioning when the gear actually goes on. So it could be as far as a year. We've got jobs now that are over a year with the equipment sitting on sites, and it's still not feeding the building yet. And as Ryan said, you got a lot of work to do with the commissioning it and with the utility company, and so it is very time consuming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of times, or we used to think of it in such a way where all we had to do was get the equipment to the site, right? Help facilitate getting it built correctly, and then getting it to the site. But now we're seeing jobs that are, the construction schedule is getting longer and longer. And so there's even a project management there for us too, a project management piece, if you will, where we have to help the customer make sure that the gear is being, like you mentioned, temporary heat, and that it's going to be still under warranty when they eventually do go to start it up.
And if we don't take the responsibility to lay that
Information on the customer, the contractor, the end user, whoever it is, then, and if something fails down the road, all of a sudden it winds up being our fault. Oh, you didn't tell us that. So there's a lot of things we tell these people that we sell the equipment to, just so they understand exactly what's going on and how it works.
Yeah, and beyond the warranty, I mean, we want to make sure, that when they eventually are ready to turn that equipment on, we want to make sure that they're successful and they can keep moving and hopefully get their job done on time.
And have the end customer happy. That's a game plan. We want the end customer to be happy with the gear, so he comes back and he orders more from us.
That's right. We had a situation recently with a customer who's a data center. They're building a data center right now locally. And, they have a very aggressive schedule. And, right from day one, they're pushing us to deliver the equipment on time. And, in this case, we kind of almost overperformed, right? We were able to ship the gear not only on time, but in some cases we were shipping it early. But for circumstances that were out of the customer's control and out of our control, they weren't ready to take the gear when it was scheduled to ship. So what we had to do in that situation is we went out of our way to help them find a qualified rigger who had warehouse space that had a controlled environment so that they could move all of this equipment where there's going to be heat, and so none of the equipment will be compromised. But again, this was not an easy thing to do. There was contracts that had to be written. There was insurance that needed to be put in place. There was legal documentation that had to be put in place, and we didn't do all that.
No,
but
it had to be done.
Again, we helped facilitate it, right? Like we went and found the individual or the outfit that ultimately took acceptance of all this equipment. And we arranged for all of the equipment to get delivered there, get offloaded there safely, and you can't just send it anywhere. You can't just send it to any warehouse. You've got to send it to a qualified outfit, right? So we found that individual. We helped the customer solve that problem.
Because it doesn't work that way. First of all, you cover it with blue tarp, you got moisture buildup inside the gear. So you got electronic equipment in there, it fails. You can't have the moisture in there. So if the gear is an outdoor piece of gear, then you just turn the heaters on. If it's an indoor piece of gear and we're going to leave it outside, you cover up the vents and the louvers, but you still have to run power to it because the heaters have to be on. No different than your house. If you didn't have your heaters on in your house, you'd have moisture all over the place and corrosion and everything else. So it's really very critical that the gear is protected properly, either outside or inside. And then some of the gear that we ship is rather large. One particular one is that I worked on was a piece of gear was 50 feet long, 20 feet wide, weighed 50,000 pounds. You got to find a storage facility that can accommodate that. And that's a big piece of equipment. You got to find a rigging company that can handle that. They can pick it up, they can move it, and get it inside the building. So it's not easy.
Yeah, construction schedules in general seem to be getting condensed, right? And I feel like that's why we're running into this problem more now than we did, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago. It seems by the time we get an order, the schedule that we're up against to deliver is insurmountable. But that's not the only thing that's going on that job site, right? There's all this other equipment, there's all these other trades, there's other things that must happen in a particular sequence before that gear can be set down, before that gear can be energized. So there's a lot that goes into the coordination, and a lot of it is out of our control. But to speak to why are we seeing this more now than we used to, again, it's the condensed schedules, and it's customers who are trying to do a lot in a really small window of time. And oftentimes, it doesn't all line up.
And that's correct. And if everybody's not in sequence on this, we can't ship it to the job site. The general contractor could be the problem. He could have hired a concrete guy who didn't get there to put the concrete in. If the concrete's not installed, our gear can't be put in place. It's got to be on the concrete pad. It can't be in a grass field. So, I mean, it's getting to be stressful. The availability of product is scarce. So once you get the schedule going, you got to live with it. You can't tell the manufacturer, hey, we're going to be a month late taking the gear, put it in your, doesn't work that way anymore.
Yeah, it's hard to start and stop, right? We used to have that ability to call a manufacturer up and say, hey, slow down. Like the site isn't going to be ready. They need 2 more weeks. They need 4 more weeks. Right now, because the factories are so filled, and to Tom's point, the schedules not only at the job sites but at the factory are so tight, we don't have that ability to just call up one of our vendors right now and say slow down or speed up. They need to just stay the course and get that gear built, tested, and out the door.
And we get schedules from all the major manufacturers on a regular basis. We look at them, we check the schedule, we go back to the customer, say, hey, this is on schedule to ship, such and such a date. And then the customer goes, I'm not going to be ready for it. We work with them to try and find the facilities we talk about and the people to handle it, to put it in storage,
Yeah, we look at it like this. I mean, if we're going to take an order from a customer, we're going to partner with them. We're going to do whatever it takes to help them be successful. And what that's turning into for us is we're kind of coming alongside them and helping them project manage, if you will, right? So we don't just look at it as like, hey, the only thing that we're responsible for is this transformer or this switchgear. No, we feel that we have a responsibility not only for that, but to help them get it there on time, get it tested on time, make sure, of course, that it's quality. But it's more than just building the equipment and passing papers. It's really a true partnership that we're trying to lean into to help make sure our customers are successful.
And ultimately, those customers, those end customers, wind up coming back to us. They come back to the same contractor because it was a successful project, the last one, or the one before, So that's the repeat business we're after. We don't want to do one-shot job with a customer. Hey, too bad it fell apart when you got it, I'm sorry. We want them to come back to us because it was successful all the way down the line. When you work with the customers for all these years, they appreciate what we do, and we believe that's why they come back to us. Well, I mean, first of all, generally, if we're involved up front on the job, we go to the utility company for the customer in many cases, because the utility company, they're the ones that say yes or no. So we know enough, because we've been doing this for a million years. We know enough to go to the utility company. We tell the customer, hey, do you mind if we call so-and-so at the utility company? And they love it, because that takes it off their back. But the point is, we get the answers directly from the utility company. We know what they want now, and then we can give the customer what they want, rather than give them something that, and the utility company says, later, we're not turning that on. That's not acceptable.
When we're involved in a project, particularly where we're involved in supplying a customer with a piece of utility service entrance switchgear, that switchgear has to be built to that particular utility standards and specifications. And the utility companies really like to work with us because we've been doing it for so long and we understand what they want to see and how they want that gear built. It's not to say that other folks can't do it, but we do it really well. And so when that gear does hit the site and the utility company is coming through it and they're doing a QC check on site, there is very little that gets flagged, or there's very little concerns or issues, because right from the get-go, right from day one, we're working to make sure that that gear, when it hits the site, it's going to be per the utility specs.
And we do a lot of jobs, and we keep track of the jobs. So if a customer comes to us and said, we have this particular project, we have them in our files, so we know exactly what the utility company is going to want. So then we'd go back to the utility company and say, hey, we're working on this job. A lot of times they don't even know the jobs that we're working on. They say, oh, we appreciate you calling. We didn't know that job was coming up. We give them a head start. We let them know in advance what we're doing. They appreciate that tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah, before a piece of utility switchgear is tied into the utility, one of the last steps is that the utility wants to come out and they want to witness, test the equipment in the field, right? So they want to make sure that the relays are functioning, and if there's an auto throwover scheme, they want to see that auto throwover scheme function. We a lot of times get involved in that testing. We might not actually do the testing, but we have people on our team who understand what the utility company wants to see, and they'll come alongside our customer, whether it be a contractor or an end user, and they'll ensure that that testing goes well for them.
We've had issues when we got to job sites where there was some questionable tests that took place. I was down at Bison Field, the baseball diamond. We put in new gear a couple years ago, and there was an issue. There was one of the relays that didn't function properly. Okay, I mean that's why the utility company goes there to the site, because that's the last thing they do before they tell the guy at the other end of the line, turn the power on, it's okay. And we had a relay that didn't function properly there. We got it taken care of. They were still on site. Everybody was happy. But if we're not there or we're not participating in it, it gets ugly, okay? And we don't like that.